Did you know some Silverados use more fuel per mile than a cargo ship? I'm not kidding. And if you've got one of these in your garage, you might be literally burning money with every mile. Today I'm going to reveal the 5 thirstiest Silverados GM ever built. Look, I grew up when gas cost 50 cents a gallon. My dad would fill up the Silverado tank with 15 bucks and drive all week. Today, with gas at $4 a gallon, some of these trucks cost more to fuel up than a monthly mortgage payment. And if you're thinking about buying a used Silverado or already have one and wondering why your credit card melts at gas stations, stick around because I'm going to show you not just which ones are the biggest gas guzzlers, but also why they drink so much. Oh, and go ahead and subscribe because here we tell the truth about what nobody tells you at the dealership. Silverado number 1. 6.0L Vortec 2500 HD / 3500 HD 2001 to 2019, the fuel sucker. First on our list is the 6.0 Vortec from the HD versions. And look, this isn't necessarily a bad engine. Actually, it's super reliable, but it has the thirst of a recovering alcoholic. 366 cubic inches of iron block that gets 8 to 10 miles per gallon in the city. 8 to 10. Just to give you an idea, that's worse than some full-size SUVs from the 70s. Why does it drink so much? First, it's a heavy iron block. Second, it doesn't have modern fuel-saving technology. Third, it was designed for heavy work, so the maps are rich in fuel to protect the engine under load. But the worst part is that lots of people buy these 2500 HDs and 3500 HDs for city use. Guy driving alone in a 1-ton truck to go to the office. It's like using a tractor to go to the bakery. I know a guy who had a 2008 2500 HD with this engine. Spent $120 a week just to go to work. Did the math, $6,200 a year just on fuel. Sold it and bought a used Prius. Yes, a Prius. If you've got one of these, my advice, use it for what it was made for. Towing, heavy loads, farm work. For city use, it's literally burning money. Silverado number 2, 8.1L Vortec Big Block, 2001 to 2006, the thirsty monster. Now we get to the real villain, the 8.1 liter Big Block Vortec. 496 cubic inches of pure American brutality. And thirst. Lots of thirst. This engine was GM's last card before diesels dominated the heavy-duty segment. 340 horsepower, 455 lb-ft of torque, and fuel consumption that makes you cry at gas stations. 6 to 8 miles per gallon in the city, 10 to 12 on the highway if you drive like a grandma. But here's the problem. Nobody who buys an 8.1 drives like grandma. It's impossible not to floor it with that rumble. Physics is cruel. The bigger the displacement, the higher the consumption. Simple as that. And this engine has the displacement of a racing boat motor. Literally. True story, a friend of mine bought a 2003 Silverado 2500 HD with the 8.1 to pull a horse trailer. First trip, 650 miles. Spent $340 on fuel. $340 on one trip. He sold it after 6 months. Said it was cheaper to rent a truck whenever he needed it than to maintain that mobile thirst. If you find one of these cheap, remember, the low purchase price doesn't make up for the high operating cost, unless you own an oil well. Silverado number 3, 6.2L AFM 2009 to 2013, the technological disappointment. Here we have one of the biggest disappointments in GM history, the first generation 6.2 liter with AFM, active fuel management. On paper, it seemed genius, powerful V8 that shuts off half the cylinders to save fuel. For 103 horsepower, modern technology, the future had arrived. In practice, a beautiful piece of crap consumption. 14 to 16 miles per gallon on the highway, 10 to 12 in the city. Worse than the basic 5.3. How is this possible? Because the first generation AFM system was dumber than a motel door. The engine was constantly switching between 8 and 4 cylinders, never finding the sweet spot. Plus, when in V4 mode, it had to work harder to maintain performance, canceling out any savings. Even worse, the system was so problematic that most owners ended up disabling it at shops. Result: a 6.2 engine with no fuel saving system, drinking like an 8.1 but without the displacement excuse. My brother-in-law had a 2011 Silverado LTZ with this engine. Sold it after 2 years, saying it used more fuel than his wife's Tahoe V8, which had a 5.3. If you have one from this generation, look for a chip tune to disable the AFM permanently. You'll save fuel and mechanical problems. Silverado number 4, first gen flex fuel 5.3L, 2006 to 2008, the double drunk. Fourth place goes to an engine that should have been economical, but turned into a nightmare, the first generation flex fuel 5.3. The idea was beautiful, engine that runs on both gasoline and E85, ethanol. Economy, sustainability, energy independence. Pure theory. With regular gasoline, this engine wasn't very economical, 15 to 17 miles per gallon city, 20 to 22 highway. But with E85, forget it. Ethanol has lower energy density than gasoline. Result: the engine needs to inject more fuel for the same performance. Much more. We're talking about a 25 to 30% drop in economy. I did a real test, borrowed a 2007 flex fuel Silverado, 1 week with regular gas, 16 miles per gallon average. Same week, same route, with E85, 11 miles per gallon. 11. And here's the worst part, E85 only pays off if it costs at least 25% less than regular gasoline. But it was rarely more than 10 to 15% cheaper. You saved at the pump but spent more in the end. Plus, the first generation system couldn't properly dose the mixture. Many owners reported performance problems, irregular idle, and even injector damage. If you have one of these, my suggestion: use regular gasoline and pretend the flex option doesn't exist. Your wallet will thank you. Silverado number 5, problematic 5.3L AFM, 2005 to 2008, the false economical. Closing our list, we have the first generation AFM 5.3. This one's tricky because it should be economical, but has problems that destroy any savings. The 5.3 was always known as GM's balanced engine. Adequate power, reasonable consumption, okay reliability. Then they decided to improve it with AFM. The problem is the system was poorly calibrated. It switched between V8 and V4 at the wrong times, created horrible vibrations, and often got confused about which mode to use. Result? Worse consumption than a regular 5.3. 14 to 16 miles per gallon city when it should get 18 to 20. Because the engine spent more time working hard in V4 than relaxed in V8. But the real problem was reliability. This generation's AFM caused premature lifter wear, camshaft problems, and even piston holes in extreme cases. I met a guy who had 3 consecutive Silverados from this generation. All had AFM problems before 100k miles. The third time, he said, "Enough, I'm going forward." And you know what's worse? When the AFM broke, consumption increased even more. I've seen cases of 5.3S with stuck AFM using more than a 6.0. The solution? Disable the system. There are kits on the market that cost $300 to $500 and eliminate AFM permanently. Engine becomes more reliable and more economical. So there you have it, the 5 thirstiest Silverados you can find. The HD 6.0 that drinks like a tractor, the 8.1 that's practically a ship engine, the problematic 6.2 AFM, the deceptive flex fuel, and the first generation 5.3 AFM. What's the pattern here? Poorly implemented technology and oversized engines for common use. GM tried to solve problems that didn't exist and created worse ones. My advice, if you need a Silverado and economy is important, look for a 4.8 Vortec or an early AFM-free 5.3. They're less powerful, but they'll leave you a lot more money in your pocket. And you? Ever had any traumatic experience with Silverado consumption? Know any engine that should be on this list? Drop it in the comments, I read them all. If this video helped you avoid a 4-wheeled fuel bomb, hit that like button because it motivates me to keep researching this information nobody tells you. And next week, I'm gonna show you the opposite, the 5 most economical Silverados of all time. Some reach a surprising 25 miles per gallon. You won't believe number 3. See you then.